just seen something being shared from the mark scheme of the reading test in SATs this year, and it's just really wound me up and made me question even further, why do we bother with these SATs tests? Ultimately, I don't have a problem with children sitting down doing tests to check where they're up to with their learning, if that's done in the right way. I don't think SATs is like that, because ultimately the results from SATs are used as a stick to beat schools with, and therefore schools are under so much unnecessary pressure to get the best results year on year because of league tables, and whether they are knowingly or unknowingly, a lot of schools put that pressure then onto their students. Which is backed up with this question from Teacher Tap that asked, this week during SATs week, how many of your Year 6 pupils have shown signs of upset distress due to SATs? 48% saying some of them, 2% saying most of them. Nearly a quarter said I don't know, so I'm taking that's teachers answering that question who aren't involved in SATs, who are teaching another year group. Now, you ask any teacher and they'll tell you that children sitting the SPAG test, the spelling, punctuation and grammar test, is and always has been a complete and utter waste of time. It doesn't make children better writers, because the test is so flawed in that it only ever focuses on what something is, what's an adjective, what is the passive voice. What it never does is it focuses on the why. Why would we use that for affecting our writing? And ultimately that's why it's a complete and utter waste of time. But what I have seen that's wound me up today is around the reading test. Now, again, I would say that ultimately the reading test is flawed for a couple of reasons. First of all, the actual text themselves in those reading tests tend to be so flipping boring, because ultimately no decent author is ever going to lend their works to these ridiculous tests. And you will never be able to create a reading comprehension test which is a level playing field for every single child in your class, let alone the whole country, because when it comes to comprehension, you bring so much of your own life experiences to it, that sort of text to self link. Now, if you create a reading comprehension test with a text, a setting at a beach, and you've got a child who every holiday is taken away to a beach, they are going to be able to connect with that text so much better. They've been there, they've experienced it, they've felt the sand between their toes. A child who has never been to a beach, who has never been able, doesn't really get to see outside of the school and the end of their road, they are not going to be able to connect with it as well. But it's these little excerpts from the mark scheme for the reading test this year that's really sort of wound me up. So there was a question here, and I want to make it clear, I wasn't involved in SATs in my school this year, so I've not seen the tests. But this just seems absolutely ridiculous. But by all means, correct me. Why did she play carelessly when she started playing chess? Now, you can give the answer if you say she's being too eager to win. So she's so eager, she was too eager to win. But you cannot accept an answer that says she's eager to win. Like, is that just me, or is that just so ridiculously nitpicking, almost like designed to catch kids out, which is just ludicrous. I just look at this going, if that's how ridiculous it's going to be, surely we need to design better tests. Another example here, according to the text, what is important to have when learning something new? Yes, you can have someone to help you learn or someone to help you understand, but you can't have someone to help you. Is that just me? Please let me know if it's just me that finds that absolutely ridiculous. And one last point with these tests. Obviously, the news this week about teachers getting a 4% pay rise, it's not fully funded. 1% of that pay rise, which is around about 350 million, needs to be covered from sort of efficiencies. Someone sent me an email where they'd done a Freedom of Information request looking at the cost of different tests at primary school. So the baseline in reception is 2.8 million, times tables check 1.6, SATs is a whopping 26.5 million. So the total's around about 31 million. Obviously that's not going to cover the 350 million that needs covering, but it's definitely a start. So if we were to not give the Standards and Testing Agency 50 million a year, it might go somewhere. And I think there's a better way. I think we could assess children's learning much better. Maybe if you were to just trust teachers to do it, you know, without the ridiculous level of accountability of league tables and stuff. We just trust teachers who have children's best interests at heart to give a fair reflection of where children are at, to then support them on their next stage of education. But, you know, It sounds too much like common sense.